Hi, my name is Laura Lee Barron. I am the UNICEF representative for Lake Washington Education Association. This is part 3 of our video series to summarize the K-1 Return to In-Person Instruction LOU. If you have not yet seen part 1 or part 2, you may wish to watch those videos before watching this part 3, which is section 6, page 11 of the LOU. We will be reviewing pages 11 through 19. Let us begin. As you can see in part 6, section A, we talk about the leave options available to employees. The district and the association want to continue to encourage employees to access the Employees Assistance Program. If you are not aware of this program, it's basically a counseling service paid for through the district and your employment. In these conditions, it talks about the fact that you may use that telemed health counseling during the workday as long as it's not during instructional hours. The district is encouraging employees to access the Employee Assistance Program if needed. In section B, we're reminded that the district and the association have agreed to some changes to sick leave for the year ahead. Specifically your sick leave balance, and this is for K-1 teachers or those impacted by teaching in-person instruction for K-1 students. The teachers assigned to provide in-person services have access to a pool of sick leave for a positive COVID-19 diagnosis contracted at the workplace. So you will not need to use your sick leave unless it's a situation where you have COVID leave and it becomes an extended illness. There are other options. There's the pool of leave, there's the employee supplementary paid leave, there's some requirements and paperwork, but the district is providing leave for people more at risk because they're being forced to return to school on a quicker timeline. We're continuing the health emergency leave for staff who contract COVID-19. Staff who are excluded from in-person instruction will be covered by this leave. You will not need to use your accrued sick leave. If you have to isolate or quarantine because an administrator comes to you and says you've been exposed, again, the district will cover that from the pool of leave. There are also federal, state, and local options available for leave if all the other options have become exhausted. We will talk to individual employees when those situations arrive. All right, part 7. Part 7 is all the health and safety considerations. It's pages 12 through 19. I will move a bit quickly through here as most of these health and safety standards have become common knowledge, and you can refer back to them. Please remember the reference document is the district's health and safety manual, Health Department of the state of Washington and King County, as well as labor and industry requirements for COVID-19. First off, everyone is required to wear masks. If there are students with some sort of health issue, behavioral or medical, where they can't wear a mask, then teachers are going to be informed, and a higher grade PPE will be given to teachers in those situations. In general, teachers will receive 5 cloth masks. Students will receive 2 cloth masks. There will be replacement paper masks in almost every room, like a box of those paper ones that you see everywhere you go these days. There's an adjustment here in letter B for hard of hearing students or staff. The district will make those accommodations if you have a hard of hearing student or you yourself are hard of hearing and you need a different PPE. They're agreeing to that. You may choose your own face covering as long as you're following the CDC guidance. You do need to follow safety precautions. You must wear a mask. For many teachers, you'll want to wear a mask and a face shield. We really suggest that if you're breaking the 6-foot barrier, which means you're going around your room and you're helping your students, or you're helping them wash their hands or open their snack or moving within 6 feet of them on a regular occurrence, that you wear a mask and a plastic face shield. That is the recommendation from the association. Employees working with students who cannot wear, that's one I already talked about. If you feel like you need a higher grade of PPE than what the district is originally handing out, you may request it. According to this agreement, they need to provide it while your appeal is being processed. So if they're going to deny, they first have to provide it, then we'll go through an appeal process before they can deny the use of it. The exception to that is N95 masks, because those require training and fitting. But like a KN95 mask you might receive, and then depending on the process in the future, they may deny it, but they have to give it to you first. I think it's important here to realize that the district ordered enough PPE to assume school would start in September or October, so there should be plenty. There's no reason you shouldn't get face masks. There's no reason why you shouldn't get plastic shields. You should get replacements. The district has to follow the rules around face masks and giving you new ones and clean ones. So that's why they're giving you the cloth ones. So this should not be an area of contention. Nobody should be storing this up and saving it for later. We would rather run out and order more. Part 7, Section B, is eating on campus. First off, there will not be breakfast or lunch served on campus. It will be a grab and go situation. So students have to pick up food, will grab it and go. They'll get on the bus, they'll walk home, they'll go to their parents, whatever. And that goes for breakfast as well. So they may pick up their lunch and the next day's breakfast all at the same time. Staff can go wherever they would like for lunch. We are discouraging gathering of any sort, so you shouldn't eat in the teacher's lounge. And then you'll see that because you may go anywhere you want, you may also continue your professional duties off campus. So once you've completed your 3.5-hour instructional assignment and the kids are on the bus and headed home, teachers do not need to remain in the building. So you may leave the building and go back to the safety of your home if you're more comfortable for your afternoon requirements. Snack will not be served in the classroom. We don't say where it will be served. It will be dependent upon each individual building situation. But the idea here is to keep all classrooms as masked up the entire day as we can and have eating and drinking happening outside of the classroom, since that is the most dangerous time regarding the spread of COVID. Section C, health screenings. Every day, students will do a daily attestation, have temperature checks, and the district will provide all the necessities for thermometers, including the paper strips on your forehead. This is not an option. It must be done every day. Teachers may be asked to assist with it, but there's also going to be assistance from other adult support in the building. If it's outside your instructional hours, there's compensation for that based on other sections. The district is looking into some sort of electronic attestation, but at this point in time, it is paper and the kids will bring it every day. If they have COVID-19 symptoms, there'll be a plan where they'll immediately be taken out of line and taken to what we're calling a Q room, a quarantine room, until their parents can be contacted. Everybody will know that point prior to returning to school. Staff will also be doing attestations and following the screening checkpoints. So please plan to follow the rules. Notice here on C, no non-essential visitors or volunteers in the building. We know that principals are worried about crossing guards. They're hoping they can get volunteers, but the volunteers should not be in the buildings. Section D is physical distancing. Again, a term we've all become more aware of through this COVID process. Classroom capacity will be set per physical distancing standards of 6 feet per person while seated. So I believe the district did this like nose to nose instead of desk to desk. And so the room has to be able to fit 15 students 6 feet apart plus the teacher. If not, you could have fewer than 15 students. There's a maximum of 15 students. So even if the room was really large, they still can't exceed 15 students for in-person instruction. In theory, we've been told that custodians have gone through and rearranged rooms to allow the 6-foot distancing between student workstations and a 6-foot distance between the teacher workstation and the students. If you're having trouble with that, work with your administrator to figure out your room. And then follow other appeal processes, which is really work with your administrator, talk to your building rep, work through your building labor management system. You can also work through your work site safety committee if the other systems aren't working. Part 7, Hand hygiene, as you know, washing your hands is very important. We are anticipating that this could be time consuming and troublesome with our little ones as they return to school. You can see that the students and staff are required to wash their hands with soap and water according to the safety plan. So there are certain times when you must use soap and water, and hand sanitizer is not a sufficient replacement. So please be aware of that. If you're in portables that don't have sinks, it is the responsibility of the administrator to work with you to create a schedule where kids can wash their hands. Again, hand sanitizer is not always a replacement. Sometimes there are times when they must wash their hands. Hand sanitizer will be around the building. Here's the part where the teacher will work with the principal and problem solve a solution amenable to both the teacher and the principal, which may include additional staff assistance, or maybe a schedule or times that you go and wash your hands with the kids. Part 7, section F, is about exclusion if you have COVID symptoms. We want to remove the student or staff member as quickly as possible. We want to notify the COVID site supervisor. We'll notify the other departments. We want to get cleaning and disinfecting happening in that classroom. Teachers are not responsible for disinfecting. That's the responsibility of the custodians and the building. The district is going to have a designated place. Everybody's going to know where that designated place is. LWEA educators should not be staffing that space. We're not responsible for disinfecting protocols. Prior to anybody using spaces that have been infected, they have to be properly cleaned and improved upon by the COVID safety team. And then students and staff need to follow proper protocols before returning based on public health guidance. And you know that that's adjusting, right? Originally we were quarantined 14 days and now it's gone. If you have a negative test within 7 to 10 days, maybe the person went home and they thought they had COVID, but upon another 24 hours realized they don't have COVID symptoms, all those things. There is a piece of that that's just about personal honesty, unless you have a positive COVID test. Exposure to COVID-19, section G, the district will follow the district safety plan guidelines. We've given you links to that in this document on our LWEA site. It's also on the school district website. You should refer to that for specific rules and requirements of the district for safety and health. We've reviewed some here, but I believe that the health and safety manual is like 80 pages. So if you have questions on health and safety, you should probably refer to that as it's more complete. Staff in close contact with a student or another staff member who's tested positive will be notified by the COVID supervisor. Remember, for close contact, you have to be within 6 feet for a accumulation during 15 minutes of accumulated time within the day. So if you did 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes before lunch, 5 minutes after lunch, that would be 15 minutes of close contact. It doesn't have to be 15 minutes all at once. So pretty much if it's a student in your room and you've been rotating around your room, that would be considered a close contact and you would be informed. Please note that there is no metric to close a school, and that it's more likely they might quarantine a class and ask you to teach remotely for a couple of weeks with all the kids home as well. Or they might just say, you know, the first row of students need to quarantine and the teacher, and we have accommodations for that as well. If you're sent home, then and the class is taking place, then the district will hire a sub and you might do the afternoon section of your class unless you are truly sick. But all accommodations will be made to handle those quarantines. Section H, sanitation of facilities. So there are protocols for the custodians and the cleaning crews that are coming through for high touch areas. They are the ones that are responsible for the significant deep cleans. We specifically laid out here that trash can liners will be changed. So in the past, in order to save money, we might have emptied trash cans but left the plastic liners. Due to the germ situation and the elimination of PPE at the end of the day, you'll want to make sure that your trash can liners are replaced regularly. There will be a checklist that custodians make available and post that they've done each of these things. So you should know what it is that are supposed to be being cleaned, and then whether or not those are done on a regular basis. They need to work through the COVID supervisor. So if you feel your room is not getting cleaned properly, you should notify your COVID supervisor, who's most likely the principal. The district will provide microfiber cloths and cleaning solutions to ensure all appropriate cleaning protocols can be met when staff work on campus. So again, just like in the past, if you're worried about your room being clean, you can get some sanitizer and some cloths so that you can wipe things down. Every individual has their own capacity for how clean you want things. You'll learn in the trainings the proper procedure for disposal of PPE. We recommend that you do not get in your car with used PPE, but that you throw it away prior to returning home. Section 7, Part 7, Section I, Training and Professional Development. The district is responsible for training all staff and students on safety requirements and expectations from the COVID-19 safety plan prior to their first in-person day. This should happen during the contractual day. You should not be asked to watch a video after your contract day. Substitutes shall also receive professional development training on the health and safety, and any student transferring into the school, so say they move and then they sign up for in-person instruction, they would get training on health and safety before entering the building and joining a classroom. This can be synchronous or asynchronous training, so the district may put out PowerPoints or videos. They don't need everybody to attend the same meeting, but they do need to offer that training during the contractual day. Employers hired after the return to in-person instruction, shall receive this training. Everybody's going to get health and safety training before they see kids. COVID-19 safety trainings will be scheduled to occur synchronously during the workday. Sorry, that was an error on my part. So COVID-19 trainings will be scheduled to occur synchronously during the workday and prior to the resumption of learning. Although it might be asynchronous. There you go. Thought there was options. Part 7, Section J, communication with staff, students, and families about health. Staff, students, and families receive communication from the building or the district regarding health and safety expectations. It's not your job as a teacher to explain to the families what the health protocols are or what the rules are. If you find that people aren't following the rules, you should contact the COVID supervisor and they should connect with the families about the rules. The communication must be provided in multiple languages and multiple formats. And then Part B is a section that we continue to encourage the district to follow, but they struggle with this one. The district will communicate changes impacting classroom or school work days or professional responsibilities due to a COVID-19 response with staff prior to communicating with communities. So that's what they've agreed to. We continue to push it. They're still struggling with the communication part. Part 7, Section K, supervision for compliance. Basically, we're all responsible for enforcing the rules. So you can ask people to fix their mask, wash their hands, make sure they follow the attestation. Ultimately, it falls on the site supervisor to enforce the rules. And it takes all of us to say, so-and-so is never wearing their mask properly. So unless the supervisor knows, they can't enforce the rules. So it takes everybody to be alert and to encourage following physical distancing, hygiene, and face masks as much as possible. We are continuing to be flexible and understand that things have to be reported and then addressed in a timely manner. And it has to be addressed to your, a principal can't say, oh yeah, I'm going to get to it, right? They should say when they're going to get to it and they need to address it. It's not really their right to go, oh, that's not that important. If it's a rule, it needs to be followed. We can't prioritize rules and pick and choose which ones to follow. They have to follow all of them. Basically, if it's not a safe workplace, then we shouldn't be having school. The district has assured us that they can enforce all health and safety standards, and therefore school is safe. they can't enforce the rules, then school is not safe. Building labor management teams may review and discuss the safety concerns related to COVID as part of their regular labor management meetings. We're almost done. It's page 18 of 19, so hang in there. We're almost there. Part 7, Section L is ventilation. The district has assured us that they have properly maintained and adjusted ventilation in every building in the district. So they have improved all of the HVAC systems, the filters, they have opened up the air exchanges. The district's goal is to keep buildings between 65 and 80 degrees. So on cold days, buildings will be colder because they've increased air exchange. And on hot days, buildings will be hotter. So you and your students should dress accordingly. And at this point, the COVID-19 and the ventilation of those germs is more important than being warm enough or cold enough or having the temperature just right. So make sure you encourage proper clothing of both yourself and your students. Side note here, we know a lot of people have heaters under their desks. They disrupt the ventilation system in terms of air exchange for COVID and air circulation. They are against the rules unless you follow proper procedure and have permission to have them. They are a fan, and fanning germs and fanning COVID during COVID time is really not appropriate. So we would discourage you from using heaters under your desks or anywhere else or anything that has a fan that might alter the system for the building. You are allowed to open your classroom windows if you have them. Part 8 is provisions for remote staff. So a quick reminder, while we're returning to K-1 instruction, we will in person, we will continue to have remote instruction for K-1 as well. So in that case, remote staff still have the right to come onto campus. We're not encouraging that. We really want to keep cohorts separate, and we really don't want people to gather. At the same time, if you need to come onto campus for something, clearly you can. You have to follow all the rules. And then section B talks a little bit more about space. So if you want to have a space on campus to do remote instruction because your home or your personal space doesn't work, then you need to work with your building principal. There's no guarantee at this point that you get your room, because class sizes are smaller and they're hiring more for kindergarten, first grade teachers. And so there's a good chance that a lot of classrooms will be used by different instructors and who they're used by right now. So space is going to be prioritized first on student needs, then on instructional needs of staff assigned to in-person, and last on instructional needs of staff not assigned in person. So I'm thinking, like, if you're a fourth grade teacher and all the rooms are being used by in-person instruction and you ask for a room, you might be assigned a room in a middle school so that you could do your teaching remotely from a classroom, but it might not be your classroom. On that same note, if you need to get your supplies, you might want to think about doing that before February 4th. Otherwise, you'll have to do it when students are not in person at the school. If you have risk fears, then you'll need to work with your principals to set up a time in order to go into your space and gather your supplies. Section C, I just kind of covered that, right? Like we're gonna work together. You can get on campus, but we got to work on it. And then part 8, section D, prior to moving from remote to in-person instruction or phasing in additional staff, a meeting will be held by the district and the association. So basically, this says we're going to continue to negotiate. You know that we're going to continue to negotiate on 2 through 5 return. There's also a separate bargain going on about special services that includes special ed, counselors, PTs, OTs, etc. And then once we get through 2 through 5, we'll start on secondary. That has not really been discussed yet. We're taking it one day at a time. We don't have a timeline on 2 through 5 other than the district's timeline, which says that 2 through 5 will return on February 18th. We hope the verbal summary has been helpful to you in understanding the K-1 LOU. If you have more questions, feel free to contact us via the Lake Washington Education Association page, which lists our emails. There's also all the reference links to this document and previous contracts and collective bargaining agreements and other LOUs. Thanks so much for your time. If we stick together, we can get through this challenging COVID pandemic. Thank you for what you do.